Hey everyone, Dennis Hall here with LearningTemplates.com. So LifterLMS xAPI has a method of working with the latest version of LearningLocker. It works with an older version of LearningLocker, which is LearningLocker version 1.x, we'll call it, because there were many iterations of it. So we'll just go ahead and log into one of my other sites where I've got LearningLocker 1.14 being run inside the dashboard. And so here we have my dev site, and on the other one we've got another development site. And this is what LearningLocker version 1.14 looks like. When you log into LearningLocker 1.14, you'll end up seeing a very different dashboard than what you would normally see in the newer version of LearningLocker. And some people like this over the others, so you have a choice. But you can see here I'm running 1.14, and there is version 2.10, which I'm intentionally not upgrading to. LearningLocker is a multi-tenant LRS, meaning that you could actually, from your own LearningLocker server, you can actually, let's call it, sublet your services out to other companies. So you could actually make use of your learning record store by reselling it if you wish. And then once you go into those, every single LRS basically has its own unique set of reporting, of exports, of statements, a statement being a learning record that was created for every action that occurred. So so that's kind of a general overview of LearningLocker 1.x. Here's LearningLocker version 2. There's some very interesting features to version 2. It's still multi-organizational. So for example, I can go view all organizations and see a list of organizations, then select that one and configure it. Or I can just go back to switch organizations, and I can select my organization. In this case, I'm not doing multi-tenant, I've just got one, but I'm very capable of doing multi-tenant. So another advantage is that in fact LearningLocker version 2 uses the concept of widgets in the dashboard. So widgets are capable of being created, so each type of user can have different views of the widgets. So and widgets are created using source. You create a source for the widget to collect data from. You create a visualization for the user to show data in, and then you add that widget to the dashboard so that it can become a quick reference. That's as much as I'll go into LearningLocker itself. If you do want to know more about LearningLocker version 2, visit learninglocker.net. Another advantage to LearningLocker version 2 is statement forwarding. This is actually quite important if you have statements that you want to, specific statements that you want to send to a different learning record store, or possibly, as an example, to a human resources information system. So this is a method to push that data to that other system, providing it has the ability to receive that data. So this is quite important, and you can selectively pick and choose which specific things you want to send to that other server. So in this case, for example, I'm sending the completed result to my other LRS. So when that happens, my version 1 LRS is what I'm sending it to, and that completed statement going into version 1, the detail of it would be able to be seen here in this list, for example. Again, we won't get into the details. That's really up to LearningLocker themselves. But essentially, all you need to do to configure this is with LearningLocker version 2, you would configure it as you would create your store to begin with. Your store is short for Learning Record Store. So you would give it a name and a description. You would then once that's created, you would then create a client within that store. And when you create that client, you're going to have a key and a secret. In LifterLMS xAPI, currently I have LRS username, which equals the key, and LRS password, which equals the secret. Eventually I will update those once I see that nobody's using LearningLocker version 1.x anymore. After that, you would configure your end user roles and scopes, and then you would invite users to your organization. Now, how you configure that in LifterLMS xAPI is really quite simple. So what I'll do, I'll just copy the URL and paste it and show you how that is managed in LifterLMS xAPI. So we'll go into LifterLMS xAPI and we'll go to the LRS settings. Again, the target LRS is LearningLocker version 2. So you'll go into LRS settings. Once in LRS settings, you'll complete the information as follows. And some of this information, in the case of LearningLocker version 2, there are different variations in comparison to LearningLocker version 1. So for example, in LearningLocker version 1, my LRS root path would be with the word LRS here and not organization. In the case of version 2, it is organization is the root path of the LRS. The key here in the LRS is a key that is found when viewing the LRS outside our dashboard. It's a kind of a secret key that and it's only used for reporting purposes. Same with this and this and this. After that, LearningLocker itself actually uses only this, this, and this for the actual sending of data to the LRS. If you did not have these 4 pieces of information, you only had these 3, you can still use LearningLocker version 2 or version 1 or any LRS for that matter. You can still use with only these 3 pieces of information. After this, you would update this, and now that's one part of it. Now, when we were developing LearningLocker version 2, there was a decision made to add in a lot of security into LearningLocker version 2. So that is done actually in an Ubuntu server. In this case, 1604 is what I'm using. Ubuntu is a form of Linux server or a kind of web server, and you have to have access to the server at either the file manager level or at this level, and you have to be able to reboot your server as well. Now in this particular case, to make LearningLocker version 2 show up inside your dashboard like this, if you don't do this, so you know, what's going to happen is you're going to get a blank white screen here. So in LearningLocker version 2, what you need to do is you need to edit a file called .env. When you edit this file, what happens is there is a setting for a security add-on or a security plugin for Ubuntu, and it's called Helmet. Helmet is the name of that plugin. It's all automatically put into LearningLocker version 2. You don't do anything with it, except what it does is by default Helmet will block LearningLocker from showing up inside an iframe in your website. All you do to check, and it'll look like this. Here's the Helmet line specifically, and it's going to be commented out, and it's going to say true. So if I just save this as an example and I reboot this server, what's going to happen is after I reboot, when I reload this page, you're going to see either a message saying that it's blocked from being viewed inside an iframe, or you're going to see a blank white screen, and you can see that here. So if I go back to that server, and here it is here. In this case it says 404 not found, so I need to go back to that server, back to the LearningLocker installation folder, back to the LearningLocker installation itself, and then into a folder called Web App. Once in Web App, you can then see the .env file listed that we need to edit. So let's go ahead and edit that. And let's locate our commented out line, and that also says false, and we will change that so that it is uncommented and says false. We'll save the file, reboot the server. Whoop. And once the server, we'll give the server a couple of seconds here to reboot. That should be enough. And once it's rebooted, you will see that we'll be back into LearningLocker. It'll show up inside the dashboard of WordPress, LearningLocker version 2 specifically. LearningLocker version 1 has no native frame blocker inside it, so version 1 would show up no problem. But for version 1, if you were to show version 1 inside the dashboard, what you need there is you need to specifically in version 1 make sure that your LRS and your website are both using the same HTTP protocol. So for example, if the LRS is on HTTPS, you also need to have your WordPress site in HTTPS. That's all I want to show. Thanks very much.